Hi folks, this is Dr. Leitner again, and in this short video I'm going to give a super short introduction to Romeo and Juliet, and I'm going to talk about two tools I'd like you to think of in terms of this play and in other plays, namely the introduction of characters tool and the place and person tool. Now, some people believe that Romeo and Juliet was written around the same time as A Midsummer Night's Dream, maybe 1595, and the two plays certainly share the same story of having a block to love. But in Romeo and Juliet, the block to love can't be overcome, and in A Midsummer Night's Dream, it is. Now, as you know, I like students to focus on using tools rather than understanding plots, which doesn't mean that the plot is not important. It is important, but it's a starting point. You don't understand the play just because you understand the plot. So understanding the plot is something we build on. Now, as an example of this, and a reason why I don't think the plot was important to Shakespeare, is because at the beginning of Romeo and Juliet, a chorus enters, and now usually this is just one person, one actor, and speaks a 14-line speech that, in effect, gives away the whole plot of the play. And he even reveals that the young lovers die in the end. So the play does not depend on plot because everyone knows how the play will end. Now, the first tool I want you to think about is in the Shakespeare play, the order in which the characters are introduced on the stage and the social position those characters occupy can give us essential insights into the deeper meanings of the play. This is referred to as the introducing characters tool, and it's a very powerful tool for understanding the way a Shakespeare play functions. In Romeo and Juliet, first come the lowest class of servants, who are in general comic figures, then the higher manservants or friends like Benvolio, then we move into the lower figures in the prestigious family like Tybalt, and notice that when Tybalt enters, he speaks completely differently than the other characters who came before him. Okay, he speaks in poetry and the other characters speak in prose. Then the heads of the families, old Montague and Capulet, appear, and finally the prince, the supreme head of social and political power. So it's a pyramid structure from the broad social base to the narrow social pinnacle at the top. It is a hierarchy of authority, and think about how strong this authority is in terms of the lovers. Okay, so the first act of the play suggests that we are going to see a play that is concerned with the public rivalry between two great ruling families. We are primed to see a contest between two mighty opposites, Capulet versus Montague. In effect, Shakespeare had taught his audience what this sort of play ought to be like. So, by the end of Act 1, we might think we know how to read this sort of play. And to an extent, we are right, because the feuding families motif is the crucial backdrop of Romeo and Juliet. However, when we come to the balcony scene at the start of Act 2, we see that Shakespeare is in fact writing a new kind of tragedy. It's intimate, it's personal, it's driven by a profound sense of human character. In the balcony scene, the sense of the drama shifts from a public spectacle to a very private, intimate scene, and this is another important tool for understanding Shakespeare, the place and person tool. The main idea is that the setting of a scene often has significant thematic implications. What do we literally see or imagine in this scene? And this is something I really want you to apply when you are doing these start with a scene assignments. Now, as another example of this, we know that in Romeo and Juliet, the walled garden where the action takes place functions symbolically as a haven for the young lovers. It's a place of innocence and protection where their fragile young love can flourish and grow. The world outside the garden is the place of violence, of the feud, of death and destruction, but inside the garden, the lovers have safety, if only temporarily. The shift of the play's focus from the public to the private, from the exterior to the interior, is not unlike the shift in A Midsummer Night's Dream from the city of Athens to the green world of the fairy forest. All right. Thank you very much for listening. Please try to find places in your writing to apply those tools.